I use the word infinity a lot because it's the closest to it in my direct experience. Because it's boundless.
Desire to be in one heart and to share.
It's completely still. It's spontaneous. So, first we have to do. I think the first thing we have to do is clarify what it means by divine. So, to avoid confusion when we talk about this stuff, people start looking at the thoughts and start examining the thoughts, because you can never get to the bottom of what the mind is by using the mind. You can only understand the mind, the nature of mind, by transcending the mind. That's why all those philosophers, for decades and centuries, are arguing over the nature of mind and consciousness. But they seem like they're going in a circle in a sense, because they're trying to use logic, they're trying to use concept, they're trying to use the mind to understand the mind. They use a logic to understand logic, they use concept to understand concept. And that's never going to work, because Gödel's view of incompleteness. You use the system to look at itself, there's always going to be a blind spot. That's why you have to go above the level of whatever system you're in to be able to understand it. And then by this point, even the word understanding is the point, because it's not really something that you understand, because understanding presupposes that there's some kind of conceptual elements in there. It's more like just knowing. I think knowing is a better word. Just like a comprehending, apprehending. Like the nature of reality, mind. I'm going to use all those words interchangeably. Reality, mind, consciousness, awareness, empty colors. To me, they're all the same word, or some people like to call it God or love, whatever. But there might be a little too many connotations to those words as well. So, the way that reality or experience, the way that experience just experiences itself, the way that reality just knows itself, comprehends itself.
Perfect.
Probably a better way to describe what's going on, right? Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so there's another way to approach this to be helpful for people, is to sort of inquire logically how reality is comprehending itself. So, how does the universe comprehend itself? And when you begin going down that line of reasoning, you start recognizing that, okay, so mind, in this way that we're describing it, is how the universe is comprehending itself. So if we are the unbounded pure potential that we can never come to the end of exploring, and we are eternal in that sense, infinite in that sense, then this universe is a manifestation to explore some of that infinite potential. And the way that we are comprehending the exploration, the play, the dance that this universe is, the song that it is through mind. All of the complexities, from the crazy amounts of planets that are orbiting stars that have evolved life, all the way to specifically this planet and the 10 million species that are on it, the geopolitical relations between the US and China, the name, all of the different names that each one of these pieces of life had ascribed to it. And so now you're beginning to kind of turning the fabric of reality on itself to ask about its nature. So when we ask about the nature of mind, we're basically turning the fabric of reality on itself. We're, rather than being on the stage and just doing the play, now we're wondering, well, what is the point of, like, if we took the perspective of the audience watching the play, why is the play happening? And how is the play being comprehended? How is it being understood? And so then it seems like the big switch for people as they undergo this process of understanding, okay, and getting the nature of the universe is comprehended by mind, and then they're like, okay, but now mind is not a thing. Mind is not a pen. It's not a marker. It's not an object. Instead, mind is this weird turn inward. And so I just want to clarify quick, because when people turn inward, they typically hit things like thought and name and identity and emotion and belief and experience and all these things. So you said that thought, when you get to these advanced levels, you can objectify thought. You can turn it into an object. But for most people, would you say that the beginning of like being aware of a thought arising is in itself formless, isn't it? When the thought arises in the beginning stages, you can see that as formless arising, like a cloud appearing. Is that also how you view it?
At first for me, thoughts are quite solidified. When I first started meditating, I wouldn't think of thoughts as formless. Like when I observed thoughts, they were just like objects to me. When I say objectify, I mean just identifying something, not that turn into an object. Well, it is kind of like that, but it's more just like this identifying object. Just like, you know, when you look at some people criticize certain movies for objectifying women, you do those things, you do those bad things to women because you look at women like objects. You look at them as, you know, separate from what you are. And the whole process of understanding the nature of mind, for me, or at least at the more advanced level, is to objectify everything, even the subject, even awareness, even consciousness, thoughts, feelings, emotions, sight, sound, the whole world. Once you objectify everything you're here to experience, there's no more room for subject. Subject vanishes. And when the subject vanishes, the object also vanishes. And there's no more duality, and that's no duality. But when I first started meditating, I would watch my thoughts. I didn't see anything much of it. I wasn't analyzing thoughts. Kind of formless. Is this the nature of mind? I was just like, okay, what's my thoughts? I'm watching it because that's what I do meditation. So I can't speak for everyone. But the reason why I mentioned thoughts are like objects and they're also forms, because there is a big difference between this empty cognizance, formless, you know, just the pure knowing, the essence of it, and the manifestation. Ultimately, they're the same, because ultimately the source and appearance of the manifested and the manifested are one. But at the midway stage, it's important to make that distinction, and how, like, okay, thoughts are also just forms, so no different from objects out in the real world.
Perfect. So let's do this. Let's do this again, where we make the turn from these quote physical objects to what is a little bit more formless, which is the thought or an identity or emotion or belief or experience. And then the next question, as you sort of become observant of those more formless, so you've shifted away from the physical objects towards something that's more formless. Now you're becoming, you're gaining metacognition. So that's another probably very important mainstream word for this. I'll put that down as well for people.
I know what you're talking about now. So yeah, thoughts, whatever is in the mind, are a little bit more. I wouldn't say. I would call it less solidified. So one of my clients asked me, what is the point of the spiritual path? Can you describe the spiritual path in one sentence? And I was like, you were trying to make everything you experience less and less solidified. So a pen, an object out there in the real world, is very solidified. But when you start looking inward, or when you scan the body, at first the body is very solidified as an object. But once you start to do like Vipassana meditation, and you try to scan the body, once you start to look at awareness on the body starts to dissolve. First it will solidify, and then it becomes like liquid, going into the jhana, and then it becomes like smoke, and then air, and then finally empty comes. But they realize actually they're all the same thing. Just one emptiness at one, so we shoot back and forth.
Okay, so
when you look at
let's keep breaking it down by stages. I see that you're spreading the whole spectrum right off of each one of the sort of trains of beautiful expression of yours. So again, we made the shift from these more physical objects towards what is more formless, which is a thought or a symbol or a concept or an emotion or an experience. And so what you're doing is you're gaining metacognition, right? Yeah, metacognition. Because what's happening is you're becoming aware of your thinking. And when you become aware of your thinking, you're gaining some sovereignty. You're gaining will. You're gaining choice. You're gaining awareness from what used to be more scripted style of behaviors to something that, in a sense, when you do something as simple as just take a deep inhalation, you feel for a moment, you gain awareness, you gain a little bit more insight into what is formless, the quality of the power to know, versus when you were fixated on a thought or an object. So we went from fixated on objects to now fixated on thoughts. So now the thoughts are appearing and disappearing like clouds in this empty space, like skyness that we're talking about here as the nature of mind. And so you're gaining metacognition, you're gaining insight into watching as these clouds appear and disappear. And you're not, so now this is the key. Frank, let me know if you feel like this is the key. The word non-fixation. Would you say that that's sort of the key, non-fixation? So would you say that the key is to not fixate on the appearances within the mind, and then to recognize what is the space in which the appearances appear and disappear? Would you say that's key?
Yes, that's exactly the thing I was making earlier. How when you are in that space watching thoughts, that space is more formless than the thought. Thoughts become an object in the space, and the pen becomes an object in the space. Even space itself is arising in that space of non-space or time. Actually, the entire universe, for you at least, is vibrating out of that space, of no space. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so great. So Frank just made that further distinction for us. So now where you saw this pen as an object, this marker as an object, you've shifted internally into this kingdom of consciousness, of mind within. And now you're watching from here, you're watching more and more of
Jersey Mike's would like to dedicate the next 3 seconds to our new grilled portobello mushroom
and you're not
Swiss
fixating on them when they appear, and you're recognizing
Trust
that
us, it tastes good too,
the
because
mind
fresh ingredients
essence
make a
in
sub
which
above.
the thoughts
Let your
appear
taste
and
buds be the
disappear,
judge.
in
Download
which
the Jersey Mike's
in
app
which
and enter
the
promo
marker
code
appears and
Radio1 to get
disappears in
$1
that
off a regular sub
space-like
now through July 11th.
Yes.
That's radio
empty,
and the number 1
both
for $1
empty,
off
so
a
the
regular sub
space-like
in the Jersey Mike's
emptiness of
app.
it. But then there's also this, because when you turn in, you notice it's not
To
a
celebrate
thing.
State Farm's
It's
surprisingly
no
great race, we
thing.
gave this game day
It's
jam
not
surprisingly great lyrics.
If right now,
It's not even nothing.
not even nothing. If you
Nothing's
just turn your attention on attention itself, you'll notice that whatever mystery or magic that attention or mind is not a thing. It's
Like
no
a good neighbor,
thing.
State
And so,
Farm
okay,
is
so,
there.
so you have that first, and then you have the cognizant quality to it, which means that it has this power to know. Right now, you can go marker, Power to know, marker, or power to know, thought, I love Frank. Power to know, I love Frank. So there's a thought. Or I love water. Another thought, I will drink water, cognizant. So now you have empty cognizance as this nature of mind. And now you might ask the next question around this, which is, might empty cognizance, might this formless power to know, this empty formless power to know, might that be God? That would be the next
So that's
question.
that's the distinction between whether the empty space now is really the nature of reality, or is it something that's generated by the brain? There is no answer to this. I mean, from my direct experience right now, it's not from the brain. But I mean, I take the middle way. I mean, brain is part of reality, right? So some people are like, oh, you can never understand the nature of reality because everything is filtered through the brain. Everything is created by the brain, but then brain is part of reality, right? So there are actually a few schools to think about. A few different ways to think about it. One is that okay, there is the real world out there, and then the brain models that world. And enlightenment is just how you model the world exactly as it is, without any filter, but it's still a model of the world. You still never really understand or know the world as it is. Some people think that's thin, and there are people who think that consciousness or this empty consciousness is the nature of the universe. Is that this, once you understand the mind, you understand the universe, because the universe is made up of mind. And there's people that are kind of in between. They're like, okay, it's both. They're codependent rising. They're staying in the middle way. I would say, from direct experience, or at least the first time that I glimpsed this, I was 100% this is the nature of it. I was like, I practiced this signal. I think a lot of people have. A lot of people think that, especially the first time they glimpsed it. Even very pragmatic and scientific teachers, they will go and be like, oh, when I was younger, when I was still in the past, there were moments in my life where I was so certain that my being was completely plugged into the ice socket of reality.
Yeah, and then that also reminds us of things like that sort of reminds us of things like this, where you have it's coming. We have things like share, screen.
How my hair?
Cut my hair, he says. Okay, here it is. Avalokiteshvara.
Oh, yes. The cosmic octopus.
Exactly. So that
yeah.
plays into what Frank's saying right now. It's an important visual for people.
I think a better image is you get rid of the body and there are just the hands and there's just the eyes floating in space.
Yes, just the eyes
Just the eyes and the hands
floating in space.
Yeah. We just showed a picture of the picture I showed with the car. Right? When I said that sort of illustrated like the sensation of different radiation. Do you have that?
Of course I do.
Yes, yeah, we should put that one right now. We did that. That's kind of close to that. Or maybe we'll cover it. I think it's kind of the same, but yeah, anyway, so to answer your question, the people who are a lot of Hindu, well, see the space. You see the space?
Okay, so I would just like to help clarify this for what Frank and I are talking about. So, and Frank, correct me if I'm wrong. So, is what you're saying that there is, when we get to this place of recognizing the nature of mind, that there's sort of one way of seeing it, which is that, well, this is it, like this is God infinitely fractaling itself as creations and then having this ability, empty cognizant ability to know the creation. And
I wouldn't say it's a fractal. I would say, because there is no form at all. Fractal field is supposed to like there's some kind of form. There's some kind of like breaking down of a bigger form. I would say this. How should I put this? I would say that if no one's ever told me anything about like mind, brain, or God, I would say this is the universe as it is right now in all levels. It's not just like a smaller fractal of a bigger God. This is it. Every single being is experiencing exactly this, and this is the full thing. So it does feel like that, yeah.
So we pulled this up on one of our previous shows, and we'll just pull it up right now as well. So this is where that word fractal really hopefully helps. I mean, similar to this shirt that I'm wearing right now. But the general idea would be that in every single one of these potential points on this big empty tablecloth of God, you have these eyeballs on all these points. And so this is sort of, one of the ways of potentially perceiving this is that it just takes a fractal-like expression. You could say, but even that limits infinity anyway.
Yeah. So because that's a form there. There's still eyes and still hands.
So exactly. So there's infinite amounts of ways to make the power to know. It doesn't have to have hands and eyes, and similarly, it doesn't have to appear like a fractal. So now I want to anchor us back again. So now you have one way, which is sort of seeing that the empty cognizant nature of mind is one way that infinity expresses itself as the power to know. That's one. And then two is that there's even that is some sort of like restrictive way of perceiving what's happening. And actually the way that this dream, universal dream substrate works is potentially even more quantum mechanical. It's even more like zero-point energy with these quantum fields, and then that's the way that the comprehension is working. The comprehension is working as an entire universal, decentralized, universalized dream substrate. Is that right, Frank? That would be the other way of viewing it?
I'm a little lost.
Okay. So in one of the options, it's a little bit more like this. So one of the options is a little bit more like this one up, and then we put it next to this one as the second one, which is more like this. So, and I think that these two go a little bit more together than we usually give them credit for. So I feel like these two go together more than they go apart, if that makes sense. So in one example over here where you see my mouse cursor on Avalokiteshvara, you have all of the heads and all of the hands and all of the eyes. That is the mind essence that is comprehending the nature of mind. Okay? And then on this example on the right, you have the complete particle, subatomic particle decentralization of the substrate that is reality, that is the universe. And so I see these two as one rather than as two. But do you see them as is this what you meant when you said that there's two different ways of perceiving what the nature is?
I think what we're talking about is whether or not this empty consciousness is the nature of reality or the nature of the brain. Are we looking at the world through a filter of our senses, or are we really experiencing reality as it is? And I don't know if those pictures have anything to do with it. I think that's another topic.
Okay, then let's have what. So give me one more time what you just said, because if you were, for example, if you were to cut my head off at the neck like they used to do, hundreds of years ago, you would undergo these decapitations, and it would be like you hit the off button on this piece of life.
Oh yeah. That's what we're talking about. Yes, exactly. Good point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we So let's we may come back to this, but these two are more likely one than they are two. Like that there's and we may get back to that. But let's stick with where we were just a moment ago, which is that all dualities get transcended, and so the duality of physicalism and consciousness gets transcended. So for example, this unit is dependent on the body as the portal for the unit's perception. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so basically you're talking about whether or not our experience is filtered by this biological organism. Our perceptions, our cognitions, the nature of mind only limited to this meat suit. If someone kills me, would I still experience this empty carcass? That's what we're talking about. And like I said, when I told my friend like the other day, we were talking about the same thing, and I was like, if someone was to, again, if I didn't know anything about science or brains or physics or anything like that, or even death or whatever,
if your trash can is getting more miles in your car,
me in the head, if someone was to threaten me
less for auto
insurance me and be like, no, I'm gonna end your meat suit.
USAA. What you're made of, we're made for.
Get a quote to that. I will for sure tell them I'm still gonna be conscious from direct experience, because that's how from this perspective of non-duality, how consciousness is really, in a sense, apart from the body, but it's also the body is a manifestation of it. But let's say if I destroy this piece of I would for sure say that even a normal person who doesn't know anything about spirituality and who hasn't had an awakening would tell you, if this piece of pillow gets destroyed, I will still be conscious. Likewise, if someone tells me, hey Frank, I'm going to destroy your meat suit, I will still tell them I'll be conscious. That's only from the context of direct experience right now. Let's say if I erase all my memories and all my knowledge about the nature of biology, the nature of brain, the nature of physics, the nature of life and death, I will tell them, go ahead and destroy my body. If I have this infinite consciousness right now, that's what I'll tell them. Because from the direct experience, there is no death.
Okay, so this seems to play into the topic that we could potentially call decentralization of universe. So when you shift your identity more and more to this empty cognizance, you begin recognizing more and more of yourself as this infinite emptiness that gives rise to endless creation, and that's suffused with awareness, or this power to know. So when your identity shifts away from your finite physical body towards that which is ineffable and indescribable, that powers all of us, maybe that's why Frank is saying what he's saying. That his identity is now more eternal than it is in his limited Frank use. Is that right, Frank?
Yes, you could say that.
Okay, so now,
I'm not making a claim about direct experience. Direct experience right now. That's why I
yeah. Okay. So for me, what feels more accurate is the simultaneity, because when you talk to mainstream and when you chop off the Frank Yang head, the simultaneity is that this piece of infinity deactivates while your identity as as the source of infinite creation remains. So what you are is this ineffable giving rise to infinity. Infinity fucking yourself. You're that. You are infinity expressing. You are that. I am that. We are all that, whether we know that or not, whether we recognize it or not, whether we become a Gnostic being or not. But the simultaneity is important, where it's like you, the Frank Wayne costume character right now, is a pair of the eyeballs on that Avalokiteshvara. You know, it's a pair of eyeballs, and if you chop off the neck at the neck, the head, the pair of eyeballs deactivates. Now your identity. So do you see the simultaneity where you can describe it as both, like this individual? Okay, cool. Because I know that Nisargadatta and much of the Siddharameshwar and just much of the Ramana, there's this Lao Tzu. There's a lot of the mystics, the greatest mystics, have went and identified themselves solely as that absolute,
uprooted tree,
solely as
kind
that.
of lost our connection,
and
with
therefore,
the
whenever
earth and with
they
our
would,
bodies.
do the things like what you were just describing,
Our roots are up there,
that they
kind of in
would say,
cyberspace.
"I know, I'm eternal. You've assumed me to be a body, but I'm not."
We need to replant
And so the
ourselves.
simultaneity, I feel like, is really important, where we say that I am both that and I am also,
Yes. Definitely. Yeah, that's what we have been going on about the last episode as well. How you're talking about how you're both a nobody and somebody and everybody. You know, because when you only identify with the universalization of everything, in a sense, you could say that's also a one side of it. That's also a duality. Oh, I am not the body. I am not the mind. Are you really? You don't have a body? So the Heart Sutra to the bottom of this pretty much. The Heart Sutra is quote unquote the perfect sutra. It's the sutra that renders all the previous sutras worthless. Right? So it's almost like it's a sutra that makes you really understand how infinite not just emptiness is formless emptiness. So let me just sum up the Heart Sutra in a really, really easy to understand way. There is no body, there is no mind, there is no consciousness, there's no awareness, there's no free will, there's no self. Yet, at the same time, there is a body, there is a world, there is a mind, there is consciousness, there is awareness, there is self, there is free will. That's true unity right there.
that's one of my favorite passages.
But that still doesn't explain or answer the question of whether this is the product of brain or not. But I think we can never know. So, but if you take the middle way, it's both. It's both. I mean, the brain can only arrive.
The first part of planting is just to listen to the sounds that are actually right here.
The brain needs the world to manifest itself too, and vice versa. Right?
Need one another. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's both. It's both and neither. There was a phase in my development where I was really locked into that universality of like Godhead and stuff. And you know, the funny thing is, I think the paradox is this. The reason why in my content the last like long time to construct even the background, to construct even consciousness, God consciousness, to objectify even infinity. Because there is a phase where you're gonna be identified with infinity. You're gonna be saying, no, I am that, I am this universe, I am God. But there's still a very subtle sense of identity there that hasn't been dissolved. Because once you dissolve even that, it wouldn't occur to you whether this is a God or not, whether this is spiritual. You wouldn't think of it once, right? The funny thing is, after I can construct quote unquote God, and that's why I say go from non-awakening to awakening, you dissolve the ego. But you go from awakening to say enlightenment, you dissolve even awareness, consciousness of God, whatever dissolve the ego, you dissolve from that. It's identified from that. And after I did that, I sank deeper into the absolute. After I deconstructed the absolute, after I stopped caring about what is the ultimate, what is the absolute, why is this universal thing or not, actually my day-to-day experience became even more, locked into that thing that I deconstructed. That's the same thing as we were talking about earlier abandoning the current one, first you have to understand it, and then second, you have to exhaust it. You have to exhaust it, and once you exhaust it, it will eventually fall out. But once it falls out, the paradox again is you can experience it now even more deeply. Because now you truly understand. When you truly understand it, you absorb it. You don't see it anymore. That's why in Zen, they even tell you to wash away the stink of your awakening.
Yeah.
Going back to the
dissolve the halo.
Dissolve the halo.